Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What the f? Sorry, man.
So, in the next video, I'll be talking about Steven Universe, the Bleach movie, or the Dragon Prince TV show, which is written by the Legend of Korra writers, which is also a video that will be probably coming out soon. I'm sure everyone would love to see that, cause all of those songs are kinda bad. But anyway, I probably made this video really lazily, but oftenly on this channel I complain about a dumb shit. And people listen, but listen to this. Video games, in my opinion, are the only medium where power scaling can be nulled out for gameplay experience, not taking into consideration the continuity or strength of the character in the story thus far. For example, on a game that I worked on, a main character had the initial ability to destroy the world, but they can't due to the very fact that they were level 1, or some contrived reason bullshit that the narrative writer made up at the particular time. It's an easy cop-out, but it gets results for telling the video game's narrative, which is the main purpose of the game, while featuring gameplay prompts. However, it should be acknowledged by the writers of the game, for one, that it's some bullshit that the character can do this at times, while other times they can't do that. Take God of War franchise for example, or as you know, another example. Kratos is literally too powerful to even comprehend on the human level. In the first game, he was killed by Ares, went to the underworld and climbed out of hell because he thought the underworld was for bitches, but notice how that storyline keeps the entire idea that he's unkillable because he's the son of the most powerfulest god in the entire universe, Zeus. But continuing the story, after he climbs out the hell, he acquires Pandora's box, which gives him the power of hope, which makes him the most powerfulest thing in the entire fucking universe, alongside with his father. But skipping around a bit, Kratos then kills his sisters, the Fate, who are beings whose sole purpose is to literally control and manipulate and dictate every person's and everything's fate in the universe. Just imagine killing a being like that. They couldn't even protect their own fate. Anyway, he acquires Zeus's sword, which allows him to obliterate armies and nations with one swing while mastering lightning and thunder. Then he kills and absorbs Hades' soul, making him literally the most deadly and most unkillable thing in the universe, because he can't die now, for real, and he can't even go to hell, to later rip Hermes' legs off just for his goddamn shoes, so he can move faster than the speed of sound, so he can impale his father on a blade of Olympus and kill him, physically later to annihilate his spirit from killing Zeus physically, thus killing his soul on the spiritual plane, killing Zeus for good and forever. He even gets time travel powers too. Kratos is so powerful, his anger literally heals his wounds. He has hundreds of god weapons, he can move faster than the speed of sound, but unfortunately every game he empties out his inventory and throws all his weapons into the ocean for some reason, and he starts off with some new ones every game and or none. He can fucking fly and is a high level magic user. He can't even kill himself properly at the end of God of War 3. The only thing that can kill Kratos is Kratos or his son Atreus, because we all know how Greek tragedies go in combination with the very fact that everyone in Norse mythology kills themselves or one another at the very end due to Ragnarok because fear and stuff. But the point is, Kratos is so OP, the only people that can kill him are plot devices, Deus Ex Machinas, MacGuffins, and anything else the creators want to use to inevitably harm the character. But when you think about it on the grander scheme, Norse mythology is pretty fucked up when you really think about it. You got your fathers killing their sons, the mothers killing the sons, the mothers killing the daughters, the fathers killing the daughters, the sons killing the mothers, sons kills the fathers, the aunties killing their grandkids, the grandkids killing their aunties and their mothers, the grandkids killing the fathers of the granddad, and it never ends. It's just this fucked up cycle of people killing people in their own family. But point being of this entire little spiel I went on is that if you had all the powers that I just described in game from the start of the game to the very end of the game, at the end of each game, it wouldn't be much of a fun game to be played because you'd be so overpowered. The developers even acknowledge the story is inconsistent, displaying how strong Kratos is, considering he's strong as an entire fucking universe or some shit like that, I don't know. But point being, instead of trying to focus on a fun hack and slash game that's this boring story, the game creators and the screenwriters, the narratives, and the level designers decided to say, let's focus on narrative and the overall character development of Kratos to ensure the player doesn't become detached from the very fact that the person you're playing as in game is a complex human being slash god with his own problems that makes him indifferent and vulnerable in some areas. God of War 2018 reboot is narratively a good story because it focuses on who Kratos is as a person while keeping you entertained with its gameplay, while simultaneously hinting back at the previous 3 installments, which then fueled the 4th installment, which is pretty much just reboot of this character, making him more complex by making his past sins become more relevant as he tries to change the type of person that he is, but due to gameplay elements, well, he really doesn't kind of change. And, he changes emotionally, but, you get the point. You kill a bunch of things and you just keep on trunking. But, the prequels are just as relevant to the reboot as it is now currently being displayed if you've ever played God of War 4. To summarize everything in a single sentence, God of War 1 to 3 display how ugly of a person Kratos is, showing us his origin, while the reboot shows us who he is capable of becoming, his ambitions and his limitations, and what's trying to stop him from becoming who he is. This story manages the status quo of action-packed violence, adding more meaning to the violence while perpetuating the narrative in a more complex way, having the characters transform. Looking at anime series such as Goblin Slayer, Overlord, Sword Art Online, the Code Geass franchise, oh god, Attack on Titan, the Irregular Magic High School, that's kinda okay, I guess. Bleach, Naruto X Machina Talk no Jitsu, oh my god. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? What the hell? Oh no, Black Bullet, Gate, that's painful too. Oh my god, Guilty Crown, it had a nice soundtrack. Seraph of the End is garbage. Kame got killed, I think I'm gonna be sick. Future Diaries, I guess that's kind of entertaining. Charlotte, Endolo Zero, oh my god. Canterbury of the Iron Fortress? Ugh. And yes, Dragon Ball Z, well, I haven't watched that in quite a bit of time, so I'm trying to keep my purity from my childhood here. But the point is, all those besides Dragon Ball Z, it's quite easy to tell why I have an inherent problem with all these series I just mentioned. The power scalings for each character is between dreadful and Mary Sue levels of competency for the characters that are in the main protagonist party in conjunction to every other party within the story, mixed together with some horrendous villains, amongst many other issues that are very glaring that I will have to talk about some other time. Now, without a doubt, do all these series I just named fucking suck, with the exception of Dragon Ball Z being debatable. Evaluating all the information I provided in each series, then comparing that information to the narrative and every storyline imaginable in that said series, things simply don't make sense from a story perspective to character perspective to what the characters are feasible of doing. I have an entire video series that I did throughout the summertime talking about why Goblin Slayer is utter garbage, but to point out the worst aspects about the story is to simply say the power scaling is trash and completely non-existent, allowing the character to survive the impossible odds, in addition to having strength and plot armor as heavy as the world he's carrying on his back and shoulders. In some chapters he can fight 10 goblins and get knocked out by a small rock, while in some chapters he can fight 40 plus goblins while fighting a wizard and a giant hobgoblin. To some even worse chapters when you can fight an orc getting hit with a 100-time weapon, faceplant 50 feet or so into some cement, while this said orc also has the ability to fire Kamehameha Blast and Spirit Bombs. And of course we got that one storyline where he literally had the Deus Ex Machina MacGuffin device that would literally solve the problem for him as soon as he got into the situation. And then you got the most glaring issue with the series overall. Each character is able to walk away from each fight with no wounds to minor wounds to slight scrapes on their body when they should all have broken wrists, broken legs, broken rib cages, multiple head contusions, and I forgot a missing ligament sometimes. The main problem with Goblin Slayer's story is that the story continually tells us Goblin Slayer is this simple normal human being at the peak of human physical condition while trying to be dark, grim Warhammer 40k-esque story with some surrealism. realism. But the narrative I just described suggests otherwise, with the main character who's only a human being fighting the impossible and coming out unscathed every time with unlimited strength and unparalleled limitations to their ability with zero restrictions. But then again, Goblin Slayer is a grim, dark story, so and you gotta have the pure and innocent character get killed by the author because they're pure and innocent, while the evil assholes with the political power somehow got their political power and weren't butchered somehow because reasons, and it makes you question how these people got into power in the first place. Anyway, Overlord is entertaining at times, however the main character is too fucking powerful for the narrative. Yes, the story takes place in a video game world, which I gave an exception to, but storytelling wise and narratively, the story is bad because the characters are literally too fucking powerful for the story. The story has you assume from episode 1 of season 1 all the way up to season 3 episode 12, no matter the circumstances, the main character can do it, and he will do it because he's the main character. He has zero restriction on power, he's operating with unlimited power, he's operating with unlimited knowledge, and he can pretty much do anything. And if a circumstances may occur when he can't specifically do something, he most likely knows a character that can do it for him. But the point I'm bringing out here is there isn't a second of doubt within the character, there isn't a moment of insecurity, there are only sequences of him featuring the main character always winning and always getting his way because he's the main character and he has unlimited power, because he has the power to do so. There isn't a single character within the world of Overlord who can oppose the main character in his armor. He's literally making the main character the personification of death in his undead legions within the Overlord universe. Some people may find this entertaining to watch a overpowered character tear through poorly developed antagonists of the series who are evil just to be evil, once again, with my favorite villain stereotypical archetype, political agenda, that is claimed to help the populace but really only benefits him because reasons. And it makes you question, how did these evil individuals even get into a place of power in the first place when they're so blatantly evil? I mean, did no one see this guy smirking in the corner planning a mass genocide? No. Did anyone see this evil adventurer in the corner actually a sociopathic murderer? Nuh-uh, because I don't know. The only enjoyable aspects I've found in Overlord, personally, is when the story focuses on politics other than dumb fights we already know the outcome of. Thus, Log Horizon is the optimal video game series because even though the characters are overpowered, they use strategy and tacticians to get through their powers, and the antagonists are on equal footing or stronger than the initial protagonists of that said series. Yeah, admittedly, the story has interesting approach to solving conflict both in Overlord and in Log Horizon without instigating combat at times, but when those methods are executed, all the ending resolutions feel anticlimactic or duller than a blade because we already know who's gonna win. I'm Summer. When it comes to Sword Art Online, it literally has the problem of Goblin Slayer. The world is nonsensical along with politics and rules that are governed by them, evil just to be evil villains with political agendas, evil just to be evil villains who are rapists, evil just to be evil villains who claim to be doing things that help people but are really just evil motivations they use to fuel their plots, and finally, evil just to be evil villains who are psychotic or have some type of mental issue which allows them and gives them a pass-by card for being evil, which we're supposed to sympathize for, even though we know they're clearly evil just to be evil. Death Gun. Now, while some characters are Mary Sue's Kirito, who can do anything and everything despite them only being human beings with limited knowledge, Kirito, in conjunction with a terrible cast of characters who falls around the main characters because they're no harm, Asuna and all those other bitches, the only real difference between Goblin Slayer and Sword Art Online is that one series is more rapey and stupid than the other, and one features more grim, dark settings with innocent characters that will probably be killed by the author than the actual world that they exist in, because shock value, I guess? Oh yeah, and one has more plot armor than the other, of course. Now, when it comes to Code Geass, well, I'm not gonna lie, I'd have to make an entire video talking about why I don't like that show, but to make it brief, the intellectual capacity of the main character doesn't come close to actually correlating to the political happenings within the world the story takes place in. Also, the politics don't make any goddamn sense in the show, and are on the lines of nonsensical. But other than that, my main gripe with the show is that all the characters are trash, and they're just as bad as the characters in School Days, or better yet, the School Days characters are a bit more developed than the characters than there are in Code Geass. In fact, there are some characters in the story that are able to accomplish superhuman feats that are completely unbelievable or completely superfluous to the actual story being told. Then there's literally other characters that do what the plot needs them to do, to drive the plot along or help the main character get throughout this entire solution. And there's other characters that survive somehow just by surviving. I don't know how they survive. Some characters just survive when they should be dead, and I don't know how they do it. Anyway, let's go on to some good examples of some overpowered characters in some anime. Well, we got some Hellsing, hell yeah, One Punch Man, damn Skippy, the Fate franchise, yeah boy, the Certain Magical Index franchise in combination with a certain scientific railgun. Yeah. Man, I love myself some Certain Magical Index, but when we go on through this, we got Seven Deadly Sins, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Log Horizon, Zenkyo no Terra, and I'll just throw in there Haruhi for giggles. But the question is, why are these stories better than the other stories that I mentioned priorly in this video? Simply because the worlds and the characters operate with restrictions, and it has coherent rules, including with balance, power scaling, and it displays in the beginning of the show what characters are capable of strength-wise and intellectually in comparison to other series with characters that can do things just because. The main difference between every series that I just mentioned in comparison to every bad series that I mentioned is, though the characters do have limitations, they also have ambitions, and when they have ambitions, their ambitions fuel into the plot, and those ambitions that they have the opportunity for them to learn new skills and gain new powers throughout the duration of the story, which would then feed into the story, not making it feel like the characters just did this because the plot needs them to drag the story along. Other stories. And Sword Art Online, not only is Kirito able to hack a game from inside the fucking game, which is next to impossible unless you were in Cyberpunk 2077 and not year 2022. Oh yeah, and briefly mentioning, I fucking work on video games, and I'm currently going to university working on a degree in gaming and simulation and network and security. What Kirito did with the age he's at, with the intellectual capacity that he has, it's next to fucking impossible for him to do what he literally just did in that story. But putting all that aside, the main problem with this is Kirito is able to stay afloat in a video game that wasn't once mentioned in the story until it was necessary for the plot. Meaning that because I have some sort of perspective that won't allow me to kill characters in my own story universe because reasons, I guess, and because I don't want to develop any of the characters that I have within my given universe, I'm going to have to Mary Sue harder than I've ever Mary Sued before in my writer's room, where I initially have to force this character to exist because I really don't know, because I won't be able to justify Ex Machinas for later. I guess that's how it is. Or, you know, the main characters just need a creepy AI surrogate child at the age of 14/15, because that's not creepy or anything. So what I'm going to have the character do here is I'm going to have him access a game console and a game engine that's probably not open source like Unity or Unreal, and following that I'm going to have him type some bullshit where it allows him to transfer this entire AI's consciousness to his computer. While he's doing this simultaneously, he's typing perfect code with zero errors, with perfect indentations, and with perfect syntax, while also simultaneously saving a program that's deleting Nani? Well, you know, what Kirito was doing, instead of the file actually deleting, he was telling the network to actually transfer the data onto his computer. No, get that bullshit out of here. I'm not even going to explain why it doesn't make sense, but you're just going to have to take my word for it. It's super bullshit, and it doesn't make sense. And I can't do what Kirito did, even if I had 30 seconds to do so, or under 30 seconds to do so. In fact, nobody can. In fact, it's this giant pet peeve I have when TV mediums ultimately show hacking or computer programming as slamming your keys on the keyboard, and ultimately that fixes the problem, or that counts as hacking. Get that bullshit out of here. Watch Mr. Robot. It's a great TV show that actually shows you what hacking looks like, and computer programming. But the entire point of this little rant I went on is because the fact the writer Reki Howard doesn't want to write good characters, or good character progression. He's enabling the character to marry Sue harder than he's ever married Sue before to accomplish an impossible feat, solely so the plot adds his character, and so the plot can continue with this said character, and the character can become more unstoppable than he already is. Like I said, if Yui wasn't around in this entire series, most of the ex machinas that happen in Sword Art Online wouldn't even happen. So I guess it was a calculated move or something like that. I don't know. Then you got this entire Sword Art Online theme when your willpower and your loving power can somehow transcend computer code. Get that bullshit out of here. No, it can't. There's no way in hell a computer code is gonna go off script only because power of love cliche. Get that bullshit out of here. Nope. I get the metaphor he's trying to use, but nah, there's no way. Kirito broke the script so he can do something inhuman just for the sake of the plot, and he kept doing it throughout the entire series, and the games just justify that means because reasons. I would completely understand if Sword Art Online was this sentient AI, and throughout the entire duration of the series, basically they had this AI talking to them this entire time. And at some point at the very end of the series, he transcends the code because the AI is all like, oh man, I believe Kirito can do this, so I'm gonna give him a level booster or some shit like that. And the AI was managing everyone's stats and abilities and things like that, and it was fluctuating and things like that. For example, you can have 99 strength, and maybe you don't exercise or fight for a couple of days or a couple of months, and your strength points drop from 99 to 70 or some bullshit like that. But nah, not what was written in Sword Art Online. In fact, that sounds like a damn ass good story. I need to write these ideas down, and I need to stop talking about them right now. But anyway, when it comes to a series like A Certain Magical Index, the story works and never reaches past its own limitations because the world is based on rules. It's true, the main character Toma is overpowered with his imagine breaking power. However, the story continues to point out his character is only a human being, meaning he can't do anything and everything by himself. So he needs to ask for help. He needs the help of his friends, he needs the help of individuals, he needs to have the suave and charisma to entice people to help him, or play on other people's sympathetic sides to him to help for his cause. In addition to that, there are many times within the series when Toma has come close to death, or been at death's door within the series, because he thought he could do everything on his own, but due to the very fact that he's only human, he's been hospitalized many times, which is this thing the series points out on as the continuing Certain Magical Index series goes on. In Academy City, there is both magic and science. Science dominates the story, but whenever magic is introduced, it's introduced in a sparingly privileged way, blending into the pursuit of science into the story, keeping up with its continuity. The best part about Esper's and Magical Index is the very fact that everyone's powers is scientifically based on scientific limitations on what the characters scientifically know about their powers, their mind-based abilities, making it so no character can be too overpowered and no character can be too weak. As long as they have an understanding of their core power and how that works and how it can be manipulated scientifically, a character can be as powerful as that. The limitations of their powers and the restrictions of their ambitions is to what a character is capable of using their mind and how they can use their scientific abilities utilizing it in the correct way. Academy City in the story isn't just a place the story takes place in, it feels alive, with multiple functioning areas and multiple functioning characters with their own personalities, their own philosophies, and their own indications of life. You got the dark side of Academy Siege with all these mercenary routes, you got corrupt police officers selling black market things worldwide, Black Lagoon style. There's a whole lot of facets in lore when it comes to A Certain Magical Index in comparison to all that other trash series I mentioned earlier in this video. I can't even remember most of the names of them, but the point is I'm trying to say here is that the entire world of A Certain Magical Index is a magical and scientific melting pot where the world takes place in. There's a lot of things happening with it, and you can switch to a random character in the world, and it would just be as an interesting story if we had Toma in the seat, or, you know, the railgun chick in the cheek, to Accelerator, to that other useless terrorist guy. I can't believe that terrorist guy even has his own spin-off book. The fucking terrorist guy. The writer is able to write about a terrorist and make it sound actually really good. That's really good. His entire story arc's about the mercenaries that go around the entire world just killing people. Because that's what they do, that's what they work for, and that's how they use their ability. You know, sometimes it fluctuates and blah, 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 blah. But the point is, it's good because it's balanced, it has some surrealism to it, it has limitations to it, it has restrictions, and it has power scaling. And that makes it good. Now, I can talk about this for a few hours or so, telling about you know, what I like about the series and what I don't like about another series. Well, another series does the same thing, but it does it wrong in my entire perspective. But I can't, and I won't talk about it. I mean, I can, but I just don't feel like it because I'm lazy right now. And I got other things to do at this time. But the point being of this video is to point out power scaling is a concept used thematically for storytelling purposes. It's used as a concept to bridge the gap of separating the character from limitations in both ambitions towards their restrictions. The character is basically restricted to this is their ambitions and this is their limitations. Therefore, how can the character get from point A with all these keeping those factors in mind to point B to point C as the story continues on, and what type of faculties would they have as they're going throughout the story, which would make them, you know, become more human or more palpable, and the nature of the story becoming either sympathetic or, you know, stay around evil just to be evil, or villainous with a certain philosophy and flair to it that makes it just justifiable from another person's or individual's point of view. But that's pretty much it. When you don't put restrictions on your characters, it begins to create bad stories because your characters are just capable of any and all things. And it becomes poignant to the reader that, well, you know, it's Kirito, so he's gonna find a way. It's Goblin Slayer, he's gonna find a way. It's Ainsama, so I'm sure everything's gonna go his way by the end of the story arc. It's this character, so they're gonna be, you know, winning at the very end of the day. And that's the type of inclination your readers have going throughout the story when the characters don't have limitations. The reason why Game of Thrones is so good is because the characters aren't perfect. They have limitations. They are human. They have their own philosophies. There's a lot of good character development for all the characters. There's a lot of things that make Game of Thrones good in comparison to other, you know, stuff like that. But that's the only thing I had to say. So the next video is going to be on, I don't know, the Bleach movie, which is on Netflix, the Dragon Prince, which is also on Netflix, and Steven Universe, if I feel like it. I don't like any of those shows.